It's WG, bring your SMB, Little Bella number 13 Prophecy Mode has now unlocked the final chapter, so it's time we go over the fight, the teams, the gearing, everything else you might need to know to rank as high as possible for your account. So let's check it out. And before we get into it, because I get that question quite a lot, you do not have to do your nightmare mode attacks each day. What you should be doing each day though is make sure you do your 2 normal runs each day so that you can actually get the full reward, so keep that in mind. So yeah, this is a one-time score. You'll do it once, you'll be there, and then if you feel like it or if you think you have a higher chance of improving your score, you can then do it again. You can set up to 2 scores each day. If you go into a fight, if you go into a battle, you can always quit out, you can always reset, and your score only locks in upon you finishing your 3rd fight. Reward wise, you're not looking at anything super crazy, but there is gem rewards, and the higher you are, the better your gems, and that is pretty much the whole shenanigan. So I'll be giving you 5 teams as well as replacements on how you can make these teams work if you don't have the most optimal units. Though first off, here are the basics. Number 1, damage is the most important. The higher your damage, the higher your score, the higher your ranking. Damage is king. Next up, movement and purify. There is a mechanic that happens twice during the fight where your units get put to sleep, and if they stay asleep long enough, they just get killed, which means you need to use either a movement ability or a purification ability to break them out of it, which means it leaves you with Seth, Stereodiona, Amy, and Yggdrasil. If you don't have a Seth, you have to use Stereodiona, Amy, Yggdrasil. With Seth, you have a bit more freedom, and then you also obviously need to keep your team alive, which is why healing is a thing. Now for the very first team, and also currently the strongest team, that is basic Helsing. So the basic Helsing, or the basic team in general, refers to using a basic attacker like Van Helsing, a Cyrene, a Acapella, a Fleeting Bella, and an Amy, where Bella takes over the healing together with Acapella. Amy is there for the cheap movement ability to break your units free, and then you have Cyrene and Van Helsing basically putting out the damage. Overall, replacement wise, if you do not have a Cyrene, you kind of just need a single targeter that can hit. Could be a Cyrene, could be Lorelei, could be Gilrain, could be Triss, could be Celine, could be a Lamia. There's a couple options. What you really want to do is you want to hit like the laser eye from the boss to take some pressure off of your team, so that they can actually stay alive, because the laser could end up killing you, right? Preferably you want to use Van Helsing, but you could also be using Lorelei or Gilrain as your main DPSs, while then supporting them with a Cyrene, or as you can see, I mean, you can see the replacements yourself, right? The one at the top is obviously the most optimal formation. Now, team number 2 is Transcendent Hearty DOT. Sorry for this being a bit out of the way. But overall, what you're looking at is a T.Hati with a Dalcalo, Darcias, and Agaris, and then a form of healing in either Seth or Stereodiona. Or if you don't have a Seth or Stereodiona, you have to bring in Yggdrasil, and potentially also have to bring in Edina so that you can keep your team alive. So the big problem with Yggdrasil kind of is it's a bit hard to keep your whole team alive, so you might actually have to sacrifice a team spot just to run him. So team-wise, it's quite straightforward. If you don't have a Transcendent Hearty, ignore this team existing. If you do have a Transcendent Hearty, you can run Transcendent Hearty with Darcias and Agaris as the core, and then a Dalcalo, Lorelei, Nico, Gilrain, or Acapella for some more support, with this at the top obviously being the strongest version. And then we have a Lamia Spam, which is just what I would like to call it, but overall you're looking at a Lamia, Ressa, Dalcalo, T-Noah comp. But overall, the important parts are here: a Lamia, a Ressa to cycle your ults, a Dalcalo to potentially increase the damage that your Ressa can deal, but your Lamia can deal. But if you're using Dalcalo in another team already, like for example the T.Hati team, you can replace her with a Lorelei or Gilrain, or even an Acapella if you're not running the Van Helsing basic attack team. And then the 4th character is kind of like a flex slot where you just put in someone that just deals damage. Like, it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't even need to be a specific moon, because you have, for example, Dalcalo, Lorelei, Gilrain as like half moons, Seth / Stereodiona as your healer, and then Ressa, Lamia. But overall, what might end up happening is that is the team where you will have to put in an Yggdrasil as well as also an Edina, So like kind of like taking up these 2 spots just to keep the rest of your units alive. And then your team might actually look something like this, depending on if you've used the teams before. Then we have Team 4, which is going to be the Summoners. Again, sorry that this is so out of order. But yeah, so Summoners are going to feature Transcendent Noah, Cecia, Bella, and then a Diallo, Lorelei, Gilrain with either a Seth or Stereo Diona. Or if you can't, you would again have to use an Yggdrasil as well as an Edina. So Diallo, Lorelei, Gilrain or Acapella would be a, you could say, no-go. And yeah, here again, it is easier if you do have a Seth. And then lastly, right here, we have the Stun team. So for the Stun team, you have Selena and Triss. The cool part about this right here is, and also the reason why Lorelei is mentioned so often, is you have these little puppets in the boss fight that themselves can actually be stunned, can actually be put to sleep, meaning you'll be able to deal increased damage to them with either Lorelei or Selena or Triss or any other synergy revolving around stuns and sleeps. And yeah, the stun team is quite simple. You have a Selena as well as a Triss, who are your main sources of induction and stuns. Then you have a Gilrain, who can basic attack as well as also put out stuns. And then a Lorelei, Acapella, Lamia, or Joanne as kind of like your swap-ins for that team. As well as the same is true for that last spot with Diallo, Lorelei, Acapella, Lamia. And then again, this is another team where it's kind of likely that you have to slot in Yggdrasil and Edina, or hopefully just Yggdrasil if you can make it work with him solo, if you do not own a Seth. So this is pretty much what you have to work with. Those are like the most effective team comps. Now let's actually get to playing the fight. Alright, so here we are for fight 1 using the Van Helsing team. Van Helsing has the best light armor, then Cyrene, then our Fleeting Bella with then Amy and Acapella in medium armor. I have truth on Van Helsing, I have truth on Cyrene, and then the rest just give him a artifact. It doesn't really make a difference which one. Here we have the initial hand in Fleeting Bella, Acapella and Van Helsing. We'll be playing on 1x speed so you can easier follow along. And yeah, I guess get what is happening here, because on 2x speed, there's a lot of stuff happening really quickly. So, our main game plan is always to possess Van Helsing and ult as much as possible. So that's what we'll be trying here again. Possessing Van Helsing starting from around 8 cost. The earlier you possess him, the earlier she'll also stop to possess him. And the important part is only that Van Helsing is possessed during his ult. As well as right here we'll be targeting or retargeting Van Helsing onto the Blazing Eye. You can also use whatever you've substituted for your Cyrene here to start dealing with the Blazing Eye, because it could give you some trouble with survivability. And then we also use our Acapella ult so that we can get some more blood souls. Here we can already get ready to cleanse, or better said move. So here we go, we move, we get rid of the sleep debuff, we once again wait for around 8 to start possessing our prime time target Van Helsing, as well as again Van Helsing ult. And then right here we can also again move around, get rid of the debuff, as well as Acapella, and then also a Cyrene ult. So here this one, either it gets destroyed or you kind of have to tank it. That's just the reality of things. And then here once more at around 8 we can start possessing Van Helsing, using our ultimates here, and then enter into the Blood Moon with Acapella, as well as cycle to Cyrene again. Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so then right here, pretty much same shenanigan again. You possess Van Helsing. You can, I guess, wait a little here for like 8 to use Van Helsing, so you can go into the Blood Moon quicker with Acapella. And then we're again going to enter into Puppet mode. Puppet mode, once more, you wait until you see these blue bars appearing, or at least the ZZZ sleep signs. Again, remove everybody so you can get rid of those. as well as then once more get ready to possess Van Helsing. I mean, what else would you be doing right here? So here we want to possess Van Helsing as well as trigger Van Helsing so that we can rotate to our Amy ult so that we don't lose anybody. There we go. And then again an acapella ult so we can get some more blood soul recovery going, as well as also a Siren ult. Once more, we're again back to quote-unquote square one, where our goal again here is possessing Van Helsing every day, any day. As soon as it's possible, we possess Van Helsing. We again wait for a round 7, use Van Helsing here, and then also a cappella to enter into the Blood Moon, as well as a Siren for some extra damage boost. And then rinse and repeat, because from now on there will be no more possessions, and it's just about Van Helsing doing as much fucking damage as humanly possible. So again, Fleeting Bella should be ready for possession, start possessing Van Helsing. Here we'll give him a bit more time, so we wait for around like 8, start with Van Helsing, enter into the Blood Moon, and then once more use Siren. So now that we're in the last 30 seconds, we kind of just want to get as much uptime on a Van Helsing as possible. So right here, even at 5 cost, we trigger Van Helsing again, because it's going to be a bit cheaper. We can then also use our acapella to furthermore again buff Van Helsing, as well as here you could try going for possession, but it's not quite worth it, so you can instead just use a Serene ability. And yeah, that is pretty much going to be marking the end of the run. There's some RNG to your Van Helsing hitting, not hitting, critting, not critting, and the like, but this is overall the way you want to play this. You could also try some shenanigans with holding or not using Siren's ult. You could be trying to hold Acapella's ult to the Blood Moon, but you always end up in around the same ballpark. This is the damage split. Keep in mind, our Van Helsing is a beast. Alright, so here we are for fight 2. We have Transcendent Hati in our best medium gear, then a Darcias, then our Stereoid Aeona, light armor priority on Daikalo, followed by Agaris. Overall, artifact wise, we have the debuff artifact on T.Hati, the debuff artifact on Daikalo, the Eye of Truth on Darcias with level 5 attack speed increase to trigger this special more, and then on Agaris we have the crit artifact because we don't have any real artifacts left. Overall, that leaves us with the initial hand of Stereoid Aeona, Daikalo, and Agaris. So let's get into the fight. Okay, so what we want to do here is move ourselves in a way that we are in between these two minions as well as close to the boss, so that Hati moves over something like this, because our main goal here is to hit both the boss as well as the leftmost puppet with a single T.Hati ultimate, giving us, you could say, double the damage, and that is what makes the difference between like a yeah, that's just what makes the difference for Hati teams. So right here we try to hit all 3 with the Daikalo ult. We can hit 2 of them with a Agaris ult, as you can see right here. So we want to hit the leftmost guy as well as the boss. And then here with a T.Hati, you see how the boss is lighting up. When the boss is lighting up in a T.Hati ultimate, that means you'll be able to hit it. It is very finicky, it might go wrong, but this is what you kind of want to do if you want to get the most damage possible. So here we again want to move and then wait for, I guess you could say, the same rotation to start again. You can see how Hati is now actually with her back to the boss, which means we won't be able to hit both most likely, but we'll again still try. Here we have to rotate through our abilities so we can get to the Stereoid Aeona ability to save ourselves anyway. So we'll try something a bit risky in that we use the T.Hati ult and then only use the Stereoid Aeona ult to save us. To then again, yeah, kind of try and start the same combo. So right here we use our Daikalo, a Hati, And then hopefully a Steroid Aeona before we lose our units. Which didn't quite end up working. But as you can see, our units are still alive. So that is still fine. You can also just not do the same risky thing we've done. And just instead of using the T.Hati there, just use the Steroid Aeona ult and save some blood cost and then rotate into another Steroid Aeona. Alright, so here we just kind of, expect to tank this. To then again start a pretty similar rotation to before. So a Daikalo where we hit all three. A Agaris to get the fire buff ready. Once that one actually happens, we can once again replace. Hope that we'll be able to have Hati in a spot where we can hit both the boss and the minion. It is really hard to see, really hard to time sometimes, but if you can make it happen, it is better, right? If you cannot hit the boss, you should try hitting the minion instead. And that is overall most of what you have to keep in mind here. So once again, here we are where we try the same rotation once more. But here we actually wait a bit. So we start with Agaris because he is, his debuff lasts the longest. Then we again move ourselves slightly. Start off with that Daikalo. And then once again try to sneak in a sneaky T.Hati. To then hopefully save ourselves with a Steroid Aeona. And then again we here have to try and cycle rather fast. To hopefully get to a Steroid Aeona ult and save ourselves. It's gonna be close. Yeah, not even close, as you can see, right? Not even close. And then once more we can use a Daikalo ult to apply the debuffs, as well as a T.Hati to just, go to town, you could say. Unfortunately, as you can see, we'll again only be able to hit one. So we're going to be choosing the puppet instead. And then here for the fire breath, either the fire breath just gets cancelled or we again have to move ourselves. Give ourselves that shield, make sure we don't get wiped here. And then once more. There we go. Start with the Daikalo, follow it up with an Agaris, wait for Hati to charge. And then we can, I guess this time we can actually hit both, which is kind of nice. So we're gonna do that. And then once more, replace. Wait so we can get some cost. I mean, you're getting the deal, right? You're getting the deal. Here we go. Into an Agaris. Plus a Hati. So, let's see. Yeah, as you can see, we'll again only be able to hit one. So it is really finicky. It is really finicky trying to like get those hits out here. And then here we're kind of just going to be trying to rotate through these abilities to hopefully get of another T.Hati before time runs out. There we go. And then why this is definitely not the best score, this is pretty much about the rotation you kind of want to be aiming for. And this is kind of the damage split with Daikalo at around 8.6. And then we have Darcy's Agaris not doing as much, as well as Transcendent Hati once again going to town. Alright, so here we are for the third team, what I would like to call my scraps. We have Lamia best light gear as well as crit artifact, Lorelei second best light gear as well as Eye of Truth. Ressa, best medium gear and crit artifact. Edina, second best medium gear, and then Yggdrasil for the tank gear. Overall, starting hand is going to be Edina, Lorelei, Lamia. And here we go. As you've seen this fight now twice, we're actually going at 2 times speed. So we're going to be healing us up, so we can already start moving towards our Blood Moon. And then here we kind of want to wait for around 8. And then use Lorelei as well as Lamia. And then that is pretty much going to be fine enough. Here we have to be ready to once again actually move into the puppet phase. So we wait for the debuff to be applied. Move everybody in with Yggdrasil. We can use Ressa to start off the Blood Moon. Lorelei to enter said Blood Moon, Lamia to do some more damage, another Ressa, and then there we go. Once more a Yggdrasil to save us, as well as potentially a Lamia, but here we're not actually going to be using it. And then once more go into the rotation, heal ourselves up. Here we can use a Lorelei, then a cheaper Ressa, then our Lamia, and then again we're going to be waiting out the Blood Moon. So here you can see one of our units is getting targeted, so instead we can actually trigger Edina to make sure that unit doesn't die, alright? That is quite important, don't let your units die. So here we have to move everybody up, we don't have to because we're getting close to the puppet phase anyway. So we can start off with Lorelei as well as Lamia and Ressa. And then we'll be just entering into the puppet phase right now to then finish off the Blood Moon with Yggdrasil. There we go. Move everybody together. Use Lorelei, Lamia and Ressa. And then here again we kind of wait to use another Yggdrasil. Move everybody together. And then here once more the charging skill. We'll just have to kind of survive through it. Use Ressa, use Lamia, and then we should be fine, hopefully. Yeah. And then here again, after the Blazing Eye, you can see everybody's kind of low, so we want to heal everybody back up. Start off into the Blood Moon with our Ressa, get our Lorelei in, use our Lamia, use Ressa again, and then we're looking quite decent. But as I said, this is more of a suboptimal-ish team because we're kind of barred from having another DPS because of the fact that we don't have a set, which is a bit unfortunate. And then here we want to actually open up with the Lamia, follow up with a Lorelei, get that punch from Ressa in, one more Lamia ult, and then yeah, once more make sure Lorelei doesn't die by healing her up. And then we only have like 10 seconds left, so we can start with a Lorelei, enter into the Blood Moon, potentially get something else off. But realistically speaking, this team is by no means super optimized, but it is kind of what it is, right? It is kind of what it is. Now for this last part, I kind of just want to talk about the potential for like the stun team and how you could actually use that in the fight. Overall, you're going to be able to stack up a bunch of arrows, and once you have 10 of these shadow marks, then you can use your Selena ult, Triss ult, you can pretty much just spam whatever. Just make sure you don't use it on an already stunned target, so you can get more uptime out of this fleeting thunder, which can only be triggered every 8 seconds, but it does fire an arrow that deals damage on a stunned target. So try to make sure you don't always stun the same target, and the same is true for Geraint. If you are using Geraint to like get your rotation going as your half moon, then make sure you also again stun a non-stunned minion. Here the rest you would just have to fill up with a mover and then a healer or just a buffer, but overall you just really only need a low moon and then you're kind of done here. And then for the Summoner team, something that is a little bit unfortunate though is Cecia. So Cecia cannot quite hit all three. It is really close, like she hits one minion and then into the boss. If Cecia could hit a minion into the boss and into the other minion, Cecia would be incredibly strong here, which unfortunately isn't quite possible. And then the Summoner team would, let's see where we can find Noah. Come on. I think I'm just blind, people. I think I'm just blind. There we go. So the Summon team would, again, as a base, look something like this. Then you just have to introduce survivability into the mix, as well as also a Half Moon. So something like, for example, a Daikalo or a Lorelei or, again, a Gilrain. Ult order-wise, you don't want to ult with Bella. You want to only ult with Noah when you have 5 of these Phantasmal Nightmare stacks, and with Cecia you really just want to ult all the time. So ult order would go Cecia into Noah rather than Noah into Cecia. And but only do start with your first Cecia ult once Noah actually has like 1 or 2 summons summoned, so that you can get over the 4 summon or 3 summon threshold with the extra summons from Bella. So yeah, that's kind of like the core, and that's the order. Overall, it is very similar to the fights you've seen before. And yeah, I wish you best of luck.